My mother slapped me at my engagement party for refusing to give my sister my $45,000 wedding fund. Well then, let's go over the facts from the very beginning. The world narrows when everyone is looking at you. My ring was shining, not like a promise, more like a sentence. The ballroom lights bounced off its gold with a cold, metallic The laughter was too sharp, the hugs too tight. The scent of white flowers suffocated. And I smiled, like someone clinging to the edge of an abyss, pretending to float. My mother was there, beautiful as always. Beautiful like an old portrait. Beautiful like a clean knife. Ashley arrived late, as always. Dress too short, mascara smudged, smelling of haste and cheap wine. When she hugged me, I felt her bones, and something in her trembled. It wasn't the cold, it was hunger, greed, expectation. She whispered in my ear with the kind of sweetness that cuts, "You'll help me, right?" And everything in me screamed no, but I only managed to smile. Michael stood behind me. Warmhands.com. The only island of peace in a sea of masks. He didn't know, no one did, but the ground beneath me had already begun to crack. The back of the room was crowded. Glasses clinked in harmony. The piano played a gentle melody, and yet something was wrong with the air, heavy, as if a storm was trapped inside me, searching for a way out. My mother pulled me aside. Her face serene, but her eyes, those eyes, they didn't ask. They commanded. "Rachel, it's just money. Just this once. It's for your sister." I said no. That's when time stopped. Or maybe it was just my heart. The slap didn't hurt. What hurt was the sound. It cracked like thunder. Echoed through the room like a secret finally revealed. Silence, a thick silence. Thick like blood. I felt every eye on me. And I still held the glass. The red wine slipped through my fingers, staining my dress. It looked like blood. It looked like guilt. It looked like freedom. I left, or maybe I was swallowed by a nameless darkness. Outside, the cold embraced me with more honesty than any hug I'd received that night. And for the first time, I realized the engagement was just the beginning. My love story was, in truth, a story of war. The next morning, the silence in the house was a muffled scream. The walls still trembled with the echo of the slap. My face no longer hurt, but something inside me pulsed, as if my soul had a fever. Breakfast sat untouched. Cold bread, dead fruit, the newspaper folded like a threat, and my mother, on the porch, pruning flowers as if cutting away pieces of me. She didn't apologize. She never did. "You overreacted, Rachel," she said, without lifting her eyes, as if guilt were just an accessory I didn't know how to wear properly. The living room was flooded with sunlight, but everything looked gray. Michael hadn't slept at home. He said he needed time. Time. That word scratched at me now. Ashley didn't text. Of course not. She was probably too busy rehearsing her suffering. The perfect victim in her little play of calculated misery. I opened the box in the back of the closet. The one with my father's photos. He left too soon, but he gave me something no one else ever had: certainty. He taught me how to save, to plan, to dream quietly. That wedding fund was more than money. It was a promise buried beneath every silent sacrifice I'd made over the years. They didn't understand that. Or worse, they did, and that's why they wanted to break me. The doorbell rang. My heart shrank like a frightened animal. It was my aunt, the only one who never pretended. "Rachel, they're saying you lost your mind, that you snapped." Something inside me laughed, but it was bitter, tired, wet. "So that's it, Auntie. Standing up for myself is madness now." She held my hand, looked into my eyes and said something that stayed with me like a reversed prayer. "They want to dim your light so their darkness feels normal." And in that instant, in that simple touch, something in me began to shift. It wasn't rage. It was resolve. A new kind of silence sharper than any scream. The engagement wasn't cancelled. Apparently, public humiliation wasn't enough to undo alliances carefully stitched together by appearances. Michael came back 2 days later, eyes tired, words rehearsed. "I just wanted everyone to get along," he said, as if getting along was a place where I needed to shrink a little more so others could fit better. I listened, and I stayed quiet. Because sometimes silence is the only answer that doesn't need translation. My mother called the next day. She spoke as if nothing had happened. Mentioned flowers, the catering, the guest list. Not a single word about the slap, as if pain were a smudge on a family photo visible, but too inconvenient to mention. Ashley showed up again. This time with fake tears in her eyes and a speech rehearsed in the mirror. "I just wanted a chance, Rachel. An opportunity." She spoke of opportunity like someone talking about theft with a smile. She wanted my dreams but ready-made, wrapped, paid for. And I began to see. It wasn't just envy. It was something deeper. As if my happiness were a mirror where they all saw their failures. The night of the reconciliation dinner was the final theater. My mother arranged it all. A perfect table, silverware aligned like soldiers, smiles printed on like cheap masks. I went, wearing the red dress she hated, seated among them like a ghost that had refused to fade. The laughter didn't match the eyes. Michael held my hand but seemed to be reaching for someone else's. Ashley toasted with too much enthusiasm. And my mother, at the center, ruled with control, dressed as grace. By the end of the night, as glasses clinked and bottles emptied, she said, "Family is everything, even when it hurts." And everyone laughed. Except me, because in that moment I understood that what they called family was a place where love was a currency, and pain was a form of influence. And I was bankrupt, or free. I still didn't know. Some truths don't scream, they whisper. They crawl over your skin. They settle in the corners of your soul like mold. That night, after the dinner, I went to the room that used to be mine. My mother's house still held the scent of childhood morning stale coffee, waxed furniture, flowers suffocating in vases, far too small. I closed the door, and for the first time in days, I cried. But it wasn't a normal cry. It was hot, feverish, the kind of crying that comes from places where even light doesn't reach. Beyond the wall muffled voices, laughter, maybe my mother's, maybe mine, because sometimes laughter is just a desperate way of staying upright. I opened the drawer of the nightstand, old letters, yellowed photographs. My younger face smiled in pictures that now looked fake. There, buried in dead memories, I found something I had forgotten, a diary, written with crooked letters, unfinished thoughts, but there was truth there, and pain, and dreams that now felt as distant as childhood itself. I flipped through the pages, and read a line that cut like glass in my throat. "One day, I'll marry someone who sees me." But no one was seeing me now. They looked at me, but didn't see me. The door opened without knocking. It was my mother, still upset. "You've always been too sensitive." She said it as if sensitivity were a flaw, as if feeling was a failure of character. I didn't answer. I just looked at her, and in that look, I gave everything: the anger, the sadness, the wounded love, the absence of forgiveness. She looked away, because those who hurt you never want to see themselves in the mirror of the pain they caused. Before she left, she said, "Tomorrow we're visiting the caterer. I hope you'll be feeling better." And then she left, leaving behind that sweet perfume that always made me nauseous. The door closed, but inside me, something opened. A crack, small, silent, but irreversible. The next day, I wore white, not for purity, but for irony. The simple dress clung to my skin like a second layer of silence. The mirror stared back at me, and for a second, I thought I saw another woman there. Someone stronger, or just more tired of pretending not to feel. My mother was waiting in the car. Ashley came to the perfect trio, the martyr, the shadow, and the heir to what isn't hers. On the way to the venue, no one spoke of what truly mattered. Silence filled the space like smoke dense, invisible, suffocating. We arrived. A beautiful place. Trained smiles. The scent of expensive flowers and food that looked more like decoration. My mother talked to the coordinators like she was selecting thrones. Ashley, by her side, feigned modesty, while her eyes devoured the room, as if it already belonged to her. And me. I walked through that hall like someone moving through a cemetery of promises. The glasses shimmered under the soft light. Chairs arranged with military precision. Everything too beautiful. Too sterile. My mother pulled me close. Do you realize how lucky you are, Rachel? So many would give anything to be in your place. I wanted to say they'd give anything except their dignity. But I swallowed the words. They would have been wasted there. Later, while everyone was distracted, Ashley approached. Have you thought about what you'll do with the money? If you decide not to go through with it? She said it with a crooked smile. As if she were a friend. As if the collapse of my dream were fertile ground for hers to bloom. Maybe someone else in the family could use it. Someone who really needs it. She meant herself, but she dressed it up with that sweet tone she always used to get what she wanted. In that moment, I realized. The bottom of our family's well was decorated with plastic flowers and porcelain plates. I left the hall, alone. The sky looked like it was about to cry. But it didn't. Because even the sky, sometimes, holds back tears. Just so it won't give the satisfaction of truth to those who don't deserve it. The day the dress arrived, it came wrapped in silence. I opened the box alone. No one clapped. No cameras. Just the faint scent of fabric new, untouched, undeserved. It shimmered like a promise. But I didn't believe in promises anymore. The lace was delicate. Too delicate. It reminded me of my own skin, lately thin, stretched, threatening to tear with the smallest pressure. I held the dress against my body. It fit. Of course it did. Pain often wears your exact size. My mother peeked into the room. It's beautiful. He'll love it. She didn't say you'll love it. Because in this story, my love never mattered. She left quickly, like a ghost that knew it had overstayed. I stood still, listening to the silence breathe behind me. The mirror didn't lie. I looked like a bride, but I felt like a placeholder. A mannequin posed inside someone else's fairy tale. Later that evening, I found my fiancé's messages. I wasn't looking for them. They found me. He wasn't unfaithful. Not with his body. But with his loyalty. His loyalty belonged to my mother. Text after text discussing the money, the plans, the appearances. Rachel will come around. Don't pressure her too hard. I was a project. A shared investment. A burden to be handled. I didn't cry. My tears had dried up days ago. Somewhere between my mother's slap and Ashley's smile. I folded the dress, placed it gently back in its coffin of a box. That night, I dreamed of running, but in the dream, my feet were made of glass, and with every step, I cracked. Some silences are loud. That morning, mine screamed. The house was full voices, footsteps, wedding plans, but inside me, only stillness. Stillness heavy like wet velvet. I watched them prepare. Ashley trying on shoes. My mother reviewing the guest list like it was a battle plan. Every word they spoke felt foreign. I was fluent only in dread. I stepped outside. The air was cool, but the ground was warm. It reminded me of buried things. Things that pretend to be gone but still burn underneath. Theo found me by the garden. He looked nervous. His shirt was too crisp, his smile too practiced. You okay? I nodded. Lead. Just nerves. He reached for my hand. I let him. It felt like handing over my pulse. I know things have been tense, but your momsie's just looking out for you. I looked at him, really looked, and it hit me. He didn't see me. Not the real me. Just the version they'd built. Pretty, cooperative, quiet. I wanted to scream, but I'd been quiet for so long. My scream had learned to whisper. He kissed my forehead. I didn't feel it. When he left, I stared at the flowers in bloom. Each petal delicate, fleeting, and I thought, do they know they're dying the moment they bloom? I went back inside. Ashley was laughing. That sound, it used to be sweet. Now it sounded like breaking glass wrapped in velvet. No one noticed my eyes. Or maybe they did, and chose not to ask. Because asking would mean listening. And no one here listens unless you say what they want to hear. The envelope was cream, elegant, discreet, like all things that hide sharp edges. It was slipped under my door in the early morning. No name, no message, just wait. I stared at it for a long time before touching it. Inside, a note. Written in my mother's handwriting. Precise, cold. Your father would be ashamed of you. Do what's right before it's too late. Nothing else. Not even a signature. I read it once, twice, a third time just to feel the ache settle deeper. That's what she did best. Inflict wounds with silence between the lines. I placed the envelope on the desk and stared at it like it was ticking. A quiet bomb. My father, he would have never written something like that. But he wasn't here to defend me. He never was. I wandered the house like a ghost. Each room echoing versions of myself I no longer recognized. In the hallway, I heard Ashley's voice. She cave. She always does. Laughter followed. The kind of laughter that makes your skin crawl. Like something slithering under it. I turned back. Closed my bedroom door. Locked it. Sat on the floor. And I let myself fall. Not into sleep, but into that terrifying space between who I was and who they wanted me to be. Somewhere, deep in my chest, a decision was blooming. Not loud, not sudden, but steady, like a drum, like war. The morning of the engagement party felt like the calmest day of my life. And that terrified me. Stillness, when it comes before chaos, has a different taste. Metallic, like blood in the mouth before a scream. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Even Ashley's heels didn't echo down the hallway. I stood in front of the mirror. Same reflection. Different woman. I wore a simple dress. Not the one for the ceremony. This one was for war. My mother knocked once before entering. Guests will be here soon. You look lovely. I didn't respond. She looked at me like she was inspecting a sculpture. Checking for cracks. If she saw any, she didn't mention them. This is a big day for us, Rachel. Us. I nodded. Let her believe the illusion still held. It wouldn't, for much longer. Ashley appeared in the doorway moments later, ready to smile for the cameras. Sis. I turned, met her eyes. She blinked, almost startled. Maybe she saw it. The storm behind mine. The guests arrive. Music, lights, laughter. I moved through the room like a shadow stitched to a brighter version of myself. Theo came to greet me, eyes shining with expectation. You're glowing, he whispered. I almost laughed. They raised glasses, offered toasts, applauded a version of me that never existed. Then, my mother stood to speak. She took the microphone. Her smile tight as thread. Family is everything. And today, I am proud to see my daughters stand together, selfless, generous, and strong. The words burned. I stepped forward. Everyone turned. The room fell into a hush. I smiled. Wide, controlled. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Pause. I was going to announce something else today, but I think there's something more important to say. My mother's eyes sharpened. Ashley froze mid-sip. Sometimes, what people call selfishness is just someone finally saying no. A ripple. Small, but growing. And sometimes, the loudest betrayal isn't in stolen money or secret sits in expecting love to mean obedience. I looked at Ashley. I'm not giving you my wedding fund. Gasps. Louder now. I looked at Theo. He didn't move. And I'm not marrying someone who needs me to betray myself to be loved. Silence. The silence I'd feared for years. And yet, in that moment, it felt like freedom. No one spoke at first. It was as if the room had forgotten how. Eyes darted. Champagne glasses trembled. Laughter died mid-breath. My mother stared at me like I'd burned the house down. Ashley looked gutted. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Theo just stood there, as if the ground had opened beneath him and he didn't know which way to fall. I stepped away from the microphone. Each step a heartbeat, each heartbeat a goodbye. Someone called my name. I didn't turn. Outside, the air wrapped around me like a second skin. Cool. Final. I didn't cry. Tears are for confusion. I was no longer confused. The garden lights flickered behind me. Voices began to rise again, like vultures coming down to feed on the ruins. But I was done being the offering. They thought I would break. They thought I'd fold. But here I was, unbent. My wedding fund would build something better now. Something sacred. Mine. Maybe not a wedding. Maybe just freedom. And as I walked into the night, heels sinking slightly into the soft earth, I thought of the question everyone seemed too afraid to ask. What would you have done if you were me?